This is Dayz. On the surface, it looks like any other survival game. You collect resources, you craft items, you can hunt animals, create fires, and there are also zombies, as well as the standard survival game mechanics like health, a hunger and thirst meter, temperature, and blood levels. But past the surface, this is actually the most realistic survival game down to the smallest details. Things like having to wash your hands after skinning an animal, badly damaged weapons can jam, wringing out your clothes to keep yourself warm, boots can get more damage when you walk on concrete versus when you walk on grass. And you can even get a sliver by sliding down a wooden ladder without gloves. I'm not even joking about that part. Not to mention having to compete with other survivors where one wrong move will send you back to the coast. So I will attempt to survive the next 24 hours in the most realistic survival game and see if I thrive in the unforgiving environment or die at spawn. And for this, my journey began at the coast. And I started here on hour number 1. Now, right when you spawn in, you're always going to spawn at the coast. And your main objective is to make your way inward, because the more you go in, the better the loot will be, and also the less chances of it being looted. So I was at this small little town where I found myself a frying pan, which is not that useful. And at first, I wouldn't pay that much attention to it. But this server was very laggy for me, and I just had very poor connection. Now, usually when this happens, you immediately want to just get out, because if you get into a gunfight and you're just lagging like crazy, you're not going to be able to hit a shot. So later, I would be changing servers from this one. But for now, I made my way to the water pump, and this will provide players with unlimited clean water. They're usually found in almost every town. And also got lucky and found a plastic bottle here, which needs to get emptied out because it'll always have dirty water in it. I was trying to take a look around, but mostly this town was picked clean. I was just trying to see whatever little scrap I could find. I did find a little bit of food, and I also did find a cleaver, which is very useful. It can be used to skin animals and also open cans. And right after, I found an unknown food can. With this, you can get sick with it, but if you eat it slow enough, you won't get sick. You'll be fine. So I'll just have to eat it slowly. And also after killing a zombie, I got some more food and water. So I mean, I was honestly pretty set, at least for the spawn part, but I was just going to need to move more inland. This is what you're mainly not going to see during these 24 hours, but a lot of the game is just walking to the next town. And for right now, I mean, I didn't really care. I just spawned in, so I wasn't being that safe, or, you know, I don't care if I was out in the open because I didn't have anything to lose. But later, I would be a lot more cautious, sticking mainly to forests and things like that. But it was looking up right when I got into this town. I got myself a longhorn, which is actually a pretty solid weapon, especially if you want to hunt animals because it already has a built-in scope. But unfortunately, I just had no ammo for it. And also, it can only take one round at a time, so that's just one of its downsides. And while I was looting, I got kicked out from poor connection. This should have already been a sign right away, but I still decided to stay in, and I refilled my water, but I was mainly staying inside because I heard some gunshots, and you guys won't be able to hear it because I had my audio muted for like at least the first 6 or so hours. So eventually the audio will come back. But basically, I just kept moving inward. At the very end of the first hour, I found myself a shotgun, which would come in handy. And here on hour 2, I made my way to another town, and I didn't find much here, and food was definitely starting to become an issue. I did want to move inland, but I was kind of doing it too rapidly and just didn't have enough food to supply it. But I did get quite lucky by finding myself a rabbit. I missed a couple of shots, but I eventually got him down. And I started getting everything ready for a fire. So I got myself some logs, some sticks, and also used my road flare to ignite the fire. And I was missing literally one thing, which was a knife to sharpen my stick.
I beg your pardon?
Sounds kind of pause. And since it wasn't sharpened, I was not going to be able to cook it. So I was already in the red on food, and I was pretty much done. In desperation, I ran to the nearest town. And I also ate the raw rabbit, so I was going to die here very soon anyways. So I ran into the police station where I actually found some decent loot, but it wasn't going to matter. I was going to be dead anyways. So I just ran out in front of a zombie and just, yeah, ended up dying. On hour 3, I spawned back in. This is basically the cycle. You just got to keep spawning in until you can get it, you know, get it going. So yeah, I spawned in. I started looking around and seeing what I could find in this small town. And essentially, it's the same sort of process. I got myself water, and you want to make sure you max out on water because it is an infinite source. And since I didn't have a bottle, it would be important to do so. If you can't do it on the go, you might as well get it all now. And yeah, I just kind of kept walking around. I still had this poor connection, and I was running very low on food, which was definitely not a good thing. But I got super lucky, and I found this cow, and I didn't realize that this was actually a shotgun. I just kind of picked it up. I thought it was the blaze, but it definitely was not. So the only shot I had, I missed because I was not close enough, and I was not gonna be able to just melee this cow. That was just not gonna work. So I made my way to the police station, when I actually got very lucky. I found myself a scorpion with also a decent amount of rounds, and I was able to make my way back to the cow, where I was able to shoot the cow, but unfortunately it alerted a bunch of zombies, so it was taking me forever to be able to skin them. But eventually I was able to get it done, and I thought things were on the up. I had so much meat from this guy, and just as it was about to cook, I died from hunger. This is unbelievable. I mean, this was this is going to be a generational run here, and I die. But that's usually the name of the game. And after dying, I spawned back in on hour 4. And right when I entered into this town, I found a dead zombie, which is not a good sign. It means a player was nearby, or is nearby still. So I quietly made my way up to the police station, and I was able to find myself a weapon. And I did hear a gunshot very close, but I actually found the guy, and he was just dead. I wasn't sure if he actually got shot, so I made sure I was a little cautious, but then I realized he probably died from one of the zombies. So I grabbed absolutely everything on him. And this guy was decently stacked, at least for a, spawn. He had a couple water bottles and a gun, and he also had some medicine, which is kind of hard to come by, at least in the spawn area. And I went to go fill the water bottles up at the pump, but I made the worst mistake possible. I drank the dirty water. Now, the reasoning behind this, I really shouldn't have done it, but I thought he would have already had clean water. I don't know. I just felt like it wouldn't have made sense that he would have still had dirty water, but yeah. This is probably one of the worst mistakes I make in the 24 hours, because I was actually off to a really good start, and I continued to keep going through, and I got even more lucky where I found a little military tent type area, but I also found a chicken, so I was able to kill the chicken and skin it. And I just started making a fire and cooking up all the meat that I had. And literally right after that, I saw something out in these fields, and I found a fox. So I mean, shoot, I'm gonna kill the fox too. He made some really weird noise, and also, yeah, I got the audio working now. It took me way too long to realize, but yeah, I finally got the audio working. And now this is where the side effects of drinking the dirty water come in. I was no longer going to be able to just drink and eat normally. I had to drink and eat slowly, and this is what ended up killing me. And it's crazy because the problem was not that I was low on food or whatever. It was just the sickness, because I had plenty of food. And also, kind of randomly, I decided to change servers. This would help with connection issues so much more, but I'd be a little ways back, and I actually had no clue where I was at first. So I was going to have to get to some sort of landmark so I knew where I was. And for the rest of the hour, I was just looting up. Honestly, I was kind of a dead man walking. If I wasn't going to be able to find medicine, then I would have been dead. But I decided to keep going on. And as I was walking through, I was able to find this military base or military barracks type area. But unfortunately, it was mostly picked over. I did find some important stuff. I found a little bit of food. But as I was trying to leave, I got attacked by so many zombies. And this was going to lead to my death anyways. I decided literally, I'm just going to put all my stuff in a corner and just respawn, because this run was essentially over. And finally, after 6 hours, this was going to be the run. So I spawned in by this factory area near the coast, and almost immediately after I spawned in, I was able to find this suppressed pistol. I should have kept this pistol, but I decided to drop it a little bit later. But it's a great pistol. It's integrally suppressed, which means it's great for killing zombies because they all won't get alerted to your location. But anyways, I decided to get some water, make sure I was fully stacked on that. And yeah, I just kept making my way through, looting whatever I could find. And I kept walking through this forest where I was able to find myself a town. Now, honestly, I thought this run was not going to be that good, but I got very, very lucky where I was able to find 3 sheep out in the field. I put kind of a lot of rounds into the sheep, so the meat was less, but any food would be better than none. So I collected everything I was going to need to make a fire and went inside the nearby houses to cook up the lamb. And yeah, I was just kind of waiting there for a while, waiting for the storm to pass and also waiting for all the meat to cook. So I was actually getting off to a really good start. And on hour 7, I decided, you know what? I had plenty of food. It was time to get out of there and go inward as far as I could. So I'll be honest, running across this field with a white t-shirt is not the best idea. But hey, I just spawned in, so it wasn't really going to matter that much. And also, I got attacked by a bunch of these zombies. It wasn't actually a problem, but I'm just surprised how I didn't get scratched once. But I was able to wake up from that and just keep going forward, looting all these towns, just seeing whatever I could find. And I also could not find a water bottle yet, so I was still just going to have to drink from my hands. And this would take so long to find a water bottle. For some weird reason, it took forever to find one. But after a bit of travel, I made my way to one of these castles, and I checked inside the castle, and apparently someone's small base was around here, but it was already picked over. I figured that. I mean, I wasn't gonna think that there would be non-looted base there, but I thought it was worth the check. And I also got lucky, found myself another chicken. I don't know how I'm getting this lucky with finding animals, but I'm telling you, animals are so important if you want to survive. And right after, I cooked up all the meat again that I got from this chicken and just kind of waited in there. I wasn't really in a great spot. I still could have got sniped through any of the windows, but hey, whatever. I survived. So I kept making my way forward, got myself some water here at the water pump, and on hour 8, I kept traveling. I decided to stay towards the woods more because I was getting further inland, and it was time to play it a little more seriously. And also, I haven't really mentioned this yet, but this is one of my best strategies for taking out zombies. It's to get in a house where you have windows that are kind of low and just take out the zombies through the window. I don't know how you're able to do this, but hey, it works. It takes a little while. It's, if you're impatient, then this probably is not a good strategy, but it's easily the most safe way to deal with them. And after taking out all the zombies, I made my way to these military tent areas. This was originally the reason why I wanted to come over here. And as I was looting, I found myself at SKS. Unfortunately, Unfortunately, it was pretty badly damaged, but it was better than anything I had at this point. And as I was leaving, I found a zombie that I did not kill, so I knew there was going to be somebody nearby. And I also found myself a stab vest, and I got it repaired with the leather sewing kit. And just to confirm that I wasn't just seeing things and I actually did kill the zombie, I found another one that I did not kill. So it's pretty much confirmed that there's a guy nearby. So I'll be honest, the rest of hour 8, I was really just kind of hiding in houses. I know it's not super fun gameplay, but I really did want to play it safe at this point because I've already gotten this far and I'm not trying to die already. So on hour 9, I found myself another chicken. This is so good. I don't know how I'm getting this lucky, but I was getting very close to the airfield. So I stopped at one of these nearby towns, all the water I could possibly need, and I needed to get rid of this purple backpack, man. Like, dude, they're gonna see me. And just a little bit further, I was able to find the northwest airfield border, and right next to it, I found this cow. This cow was trying to, you know, go in with me, but I knew it was not a good idea to shoot this cow. I was so close, so people were gonna hear it 100%. And I'll be honest, Northwest Airfield is overrated. I could never find anything in these barracks, or at least this big building. The small barracks usually have good stuff, but these big buildings have kind of nothing in them. So I was looting up for quite a while, but I did find this shotgun. And I also found some strawberry jam. I don't know if this is supposed to be there or some player dropped it or something like that, but this is really good. It's a great source of food, so that was going to replenish me. And also, I found the zombie with a perfect plate carrier and helmet. So it took quite a while because he had so much armor, but I was able to kill the zombie and take not only his plate carrier, but also his helmet. There are some pros and cons to doing this. The cons for wearing a plate carrier are, oh my gosh, it is so heavy. Your stamina is going to go down so much. But if you want to stand a chance at late game gunfights, you essentially need it. And also, a helmet's nice as well, just taking reduced damage. It does depend on the weapon though. You can still get one-shotted through a helmet, but it's just kind of nice to have. And after getting everything I needed, I made my way to this little farmhouse area, and I created a fire inside. I didn't know you could create a fire inside, but it's great because the enemies cannot see the smoke outside. Sure, it was a little slower than going inside a house and doing it. Hey, but at least it was safe, and I got all the meat cooked up. And I just made my way a little bit down the road. We're on hour 10, I got to this new town, and everything was all good. I mean, I was looking around, see what I could find, until I found this dead zombie at the end of the stairs. So I was already going to be cautious. And also, keep in mind, I was right next to Northwest Airfield, so the chances of somebody being around here were very high. So I made sure I was very careful looking in all the windows. Probably actually not the best idea because they could just shoot you through the window. But I was just wringing out my clothes, and I just barely saw this guy in the window. And I literally panicked. I smacked the wall with my SKS. But I'm not gonna lie, my heart was racing the entire time. So I was just waiting there, waiting for the perfect moment to do it, because I didn't actually know where he was. And I saw a big group of zombies going to the police station. So I knew, hey, it was gonna be now or never. So I thought I might as well go for it. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure on my chances of this, but somehow I was able to get away with killing both of these guys. And oh my gosh, I was so stacked. They had all the food I can need, a worn AK, which was very solid, as well as a water bottle. You know what? I haven't even found it yet, but finally got it off this guy. And they just had plenty of stuff. So I made sure I grabbed everything. I didn't want to be there too long because I knew people probably heard the shots. And I also decided, literally, I'm just going to log off. I couldn't even think straight at the time. Like, I was getting off, man. I had too much good loot to die with it now. So I'd have to get on a little bit later. And I got back to it on hour 11. And the first thing I did was take this guy's water bottle and refill it at the pump. And yeah, once I got all my gear sorted, it was time to keep going because the airfield only has tier 3 loot. But there is one more base above it that has tier 4 loot, which is the best loot in the game. Aside from things like helicopter crashes or like convoys. But other than that, it does have the best loot in the game. And yeah, this was a lot of walking. I'm not lying. It was almost the entire hour. I try to stick around creeks and things like that, anything with a lot of cover. And on hour 12, I saw some smoke in the distance. This was very weird. So the first thing I did was pop an epinephrine and just started running. I thought there was a guy nearby. And, you know, I just booked it over there because I thought there was somebody over there. But for some reason, once I got closer, it just disappeared. So I guess my best guess is it was a helicopter crash that despawned, but I'm not 100% sure. But after making my way into this town here, I decided just to call it quits. So I just ended up getting off for the time being. But in the morning, I decided to finally trek out to that base, and it was actually quite a long walk. But after walking for a bit, I came up on this military tent, and I was almost gonna die to all these zombies, so I started popping shots, and And that really didn't help me either because all the zombies got alerted to where I was. And I know people could hear me, especially because I got the AK and I'm shooting that. So the first thing I did was run away, run super far away. And I got lucky. I got a chicken. So that was also good. I mean, shoot, maybe it wasn't that bad. I got attacked then. But I just set up a little campfire and got that cooked up. I was mainly just waiting for it to get a little less hot. You know, I wasn't sure if there were people around there. So just playing it safe, especially because I'm this far in. And I eventually made my way back to the base. It was a different part of the base. It wasn't the tent part. It was more like the barracks part. But personally, I believe that the barracks part is a lot better. You get better stuff. And this is finally where the barracks actually gave me decent loot and it all wasn't picked over. So that was actually really good. Most of the time, these places are just completely taken. But hey, actually, there was some loot there. So the first thing I picked up was this like AS Val, but the sniper variant of it. I wouldn't really end up using it. I ended up dropping it a bit later, but I did want a long range weapon and I felt like an AK fully spraying would do just as good a job as the shotgun. So I dropped that and I also got myself a better ballistic helmet. This one would help with some better insulation and I think it does help you with more like, I don't know, bullet resistance. But almost immediately after, I found an even better helmet. This one allows you to put NVGs on and it looks cool. So maybe the other one was better, but this one just looks better. I mean, you know, I'm looking like Captain Price or something like that. And I individually loaded up all these mags. This is so annoying. You have to individually load every single bullet. But I basically just took a look around the tents here. And honestly, I didn't find that much. So I went to another part of the base where I found myself an AKM. Apparently these things are actually very rare, or at least pretty rare. I mean, it was kind of souped up. It had a suppressor and a magazine and all pristine handguard and buttstock, but I just simply did not have the ammo for it. So I decided just to take off all the accessories from it and put it on my AK. In my opinion, I do think it was a better idea because I'd end up getting just a lot more AK mags and a lot more AK ammo. I don't know, there might be people mad at me making this decision, but I just thought it was the better decision. And I was trying to make my way back to the town, the one just before you get to the military base, and yeah, found myself a chicken again. You know what, I'm getting so lucky with this. I don't know how. And also somehow in some random building I found a Mosin. Now this was the gun I was absolutely looking for. I don't know why. I'm not sure if it's the best sniper rifle. I think it might be up there for sure, but something about the bolt action is just pretty cool. But I was going to need a scope for it if it wanted to be effective. And I did something you probably should not do. Not only was it nighttime, but also I was near a military base. So I was cooking up my food. I was still staying pretty cautious, but then I got kicked off the game just randomly. So I had to relog back in and, you know, everything was normal at first until I realized that the door was open. And I promise I did not open that door. So I'm not going to lie. The rest of the hour, literally the entire rest of the hour was me sitting in this little stairway or whatever. And yeah, this is not interesting, but I heard so many noises outside. They were just like zombies or whatever. But keep in mind, this door was opened and I joined 2 minutes later, so there was definitely somebody nearby, and this is the reason why I played it so safe. So essentially the whole hour was sitting in the staircase, but at the very end I finally got out of the house and just started running back to the military base. So on hour 16 I arrived back, and keep in mind this was a full like actual real life day changed. So I thought maybe the loot would have replenished or got something different. And I got myself a tactical shirt. Listen, I know it doesn't sound like, you know, just a shirt, but hey, it looks pretty sick, I'm not gonna lie. And while I was looting, I did want to try to keep a green theme, not necessarily looks wise, but also because I'm mainly running in the forest, and if whatever camo I can get, I kind of want. So I was trying to stick to some sort of green theme. I just thought it would conceal me a little better. Yeah, I just kept taking a look around. I eventually came back to the camps where I just looked at whatever. I mean, honestly, it's just a bunch of looting, nothing really going on here. So at hour 16 I decided to leave, and yeah, I was pretty much looting the whole place for a full hour until I heard this weird noise. I did not know what this was. I'm not sure if it was just some ambient sound or it was an animal, but I kept making my way down this hill, and yeah, it actually was an animal. It was an elk. And I had a dilemma. I either kill this elk and get all its meat, or I just don't because I'm right next to a military base and skip out on all the food. But hey, I just decided to bite the bullet and take out the elk. And fortunately, it was a clean kill. It was a one-shot headshot, so I got the most meat out of it. And oh my gosh, I mean, you get so much food. If you can find a big animal, food is not going to be an issue, at least for a little while. So I made sure once I shot that shot, I got to leave, run away. I ran away as far as I could. And as I was trying to get away, I found myself a military convoy, and I took a look around, and unfortunately, there is nothing really out of this. These convoys can give you very good loot like augs and ghillie stuff, but unfortunately, I didn't find anything, so, you know, it is what it is. And I made myself a little fire, or I tried to. I apparently it didn't work. Maybe I could have done something wrong. That's definitely possible. Or just the roof was not tall enough. So I made this fire for basically nothing. So I had to make my way out into this open field, which is already not a good idea, and make myself a fire, which is, that's not good either because I can see the smoke. But fortunately, I was all right. I was able to cook up all the meat that I got from the elk. And on hour 18, not a lot was going on. It was a lot more travel because I was going to need some water here. It's been a minute since I even went into a town to get water. So I just chilled in this house for a while, waiting for the storm to pass. And I made my way over to this town. It's up at the very north of the map. And honestly, it took me about like 15 minutes to get to this water pump, just trying to sneak through all the zombies. But I got there and I refilled everything that I had. And also, I haven't mentioned this yet, but I did find a canteen at the military base. So that would provide me with a bunch more water. And then on hour 19, I made my way back west, where I found this hunting camp, or I don't know what the actual name is, but it has like a bunch of camps, and it also has a hospital. And this like hospital doctor's office place was completely unlooted, so I can get myself some morphine, which would definitely be helpful if I got into a gunfight and I really needed it. And I also found myself a scope, but unfortunately it was not the one for the Mosin, which is what I've been looking for a while now. And I continue to look for this PU scope that you need for it, but hey, I didn't get lucky. I couldn't find it, so I kept going through the forest and made my way back to the military. I know this is okay. I kept going back to this military base, but this is where the best loot was going to be, so I just took a look around, see if anything respawned, and I had so many zombies here on hour 20. I had to slowly take them out one by one, but I did find something pretty significant. For this most time, I've just been finding lower tier loot. Like, nothing was an upgrade from what I had, but I did get some Cobra sights that were pristine. These are really good. They're a lot better than just the standard AK iron sights, and fortunately I had a battery for it, so red dot was working, and you know what, it was going all right. And later I made my way back into a town. Yeah, I know it's a lot of not a lot going on, but I was checking around and I found a water bottle. You know what, this was rare. I mean, I haven't found any of these water bottles, but hey, I found one right away. And I saw some movement inside a house, but it was just a zombie. I could be wrong, but I didn't think zombies could go into a house normally. I feel like you have to somewhat like let them in and then trap them in there for them to stay in there. I don't know, but I was a little nervous. And on top of that, I got attacked by wolves, so I just stayed inside a house and got off because I just was not sure. And I spawned back in hour 21, and I was kind of up by like the northwest airfield type area. It's a little bit above it, and yeah, just a little bit of looting here and there, and that was the entire night basically. And I heard this loud explosion, and at first I thought I was getting hit with the gas, but fortunately it was like right next door. I thought this is how I was actually going to go out, by the gas or whatever, but fortunately I was all right. I was able to get out of there. And yeah, man, I was looking around, but there was no action. I couldn't find any guys, so I just kept looking around, seeing if I could. Honestly, I was ready to just kind of go out. I mean, I had plenty of loot and I was ready to fight somebody, but after not finding any traces of people for hours, I got off. But on hour 23, I would find my chance. Finally. I mean, so I found myself a helicopter crash out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, this is a cheesy strat, but I'm going to wait here until someone shows up. So I'm not lying, for an actual hour, like a real life hour, I sat here waiting on this helicopter crash. And I was in this bush, which was a solid position, but then I decided to change, and this was a horrible decision. I should not have been on this side. I didn't need to be on this side. I was completely covered from behind, but I did find this little rock cover, which I thought would be better if somebody showed up, because most likely I feel like a player would show up before they got to the airfield, not going from the airfield into the helicopter crash, if that makes any sense. So I waited for my perfect opportunity until I finally saw movement, and I saw my first guy in hours. I had no scope. It was going to be all iron sights, and it all came down to this. And after missing the shot, I die like that. Without even seeing the guy, I get gunned down in the open field, and that would be the end of my run. After walking forever and doing as much as I could, that was how it ends. And it's no different like the guys in the police station. They were walking forever until I just caught them off guard. And the exact same thing happened here. But that's the name of the game of Dayz. You go through all this work just to get loot, maybe kill a guy or two, and then 1 second you're alive, and the next second you're gone. And then you do it all over again. So I ended up back at the coast. So ironically, at the end of the 24 hours, I ended up exactly where I started.